Hello, I'm Yildiz Sethi at Crazy Normal for better health and well-being in promoting better ways of working with the mind. I'm inspired to dispel myths and lay out facts about your mind and relationships and mental health. And I'd like you to join me in an exploration of what it is to be a crazy normal like me. But do it in your own way so you can be free to be you. So, I'd like to invite you all to a really interesting talk today with somebody I have here called Michele Defelippo. And she's in the USA and she's very much involved with publishing. And I'm sure she's going to enlighten you, as she will me, about certain aspects of publishing. So, over to Michele to introduce herself and to tell her where she is and what she's up to.
Oh, hi, Yildiz. Thank you so much for having me to start off with, and I appreciate the opportunity to help you and your listeners and with what I know. Like you said, my name is Michele Defelippo. I'm the owner of 1106 Design. I've worked in various aspects of the publishing industry for more than 50 years, and we now help mostly independent authors publish their books so that they can earn the maximum amount of profit when they sell a book and so that they can keep control of their book.
Excellent. Okay. And you mentioned indie publishing, and I have to admit I have been a bit ignorant about what that actually means. So indie, what's the term about, Michele?
Well, back in the day, there used to be only traditional publishing. That's what where most of us are familiar with. And in that model, the publisher would pay all of the expenses to produce the book, and it was the only way that an author could get their book distributed to the public. So the author had to go to a publisher in order to publish their book. Well, Amazon changed all that. Around, I guess it was 1995, 2000, Amazon made it possible for everyone and anyone who wanted to sell their book to the public. And so that's when the term independent publishing was born. It became known along the way as self-publishing, but that's what independent publishing means. It means the author is the publisher of the book. Now, authors need services, of course, to produce their book, editorial design services and so forth. And that's where the business has become greatly misunderstood over the years with various kinds of erroneous messages. One of them being that it's okay to do it yourself, which never results in a quality book. And the other is that you need a publisher, and you do not need a publisher anymore. That's the definition of independent publishing. So those are the two myths that I would like to dispel and the reason I'm doing these podcasts.
Okay, great. And for me personally, as a publisher, not a publisher, an author who has done four books only, not many books, the word indie to me, I thought was a trade name in itself. And I didn't
Oh,
realize it was just short for independent publisher, right? That makes so much more sense. Obviously, I obviously got that totally confused. So that's excellent. But look, if I've got it confused, probably other people have got it confused too. That's the thing, you know. When you work in an industry, you get used to all these acronyms and you don't realize that somebody who's not in the industry just doesn't understand the history and where it came from and all of that. Yeah.
well, that's true. There are some companies right out there now that actually call themselves independent publishers.
That's right. That's what I
But
mean.
but they,
Yeah.
but they're really just self-publishing companies, which you know, from the beginning had a pretty bad reputation in the industry because they weren't serving authors well. So these hybrid publishers and quote unquote independent publishers are just basically a rebranding of the old self-publishing companies.
Absolutely. And I mean, until recently, I knew there was independent publishers and I knew there was traditional publishers. And then came this new brand called hybrid publishing, right? Which
Mhm.
confused me for a bit. And I'm wondering what on earth is this? And then, I've had an experience of hybrid publishing myself recently. And yeah. it wasn't a great experience, I have to be honest.
I'm
Um,
sorry.
so yes, so tell me a little bit about hybrid publishing because they're coming in as the magic pill between the traditional and the independent, aren't they? Yeah.
Well, that's the way they position themselves, right?
Mm.
But traditional publishers, as I said, do not charge the author to produce the book. All the author does is submit their manuscript, and the publisher takes it from there, does all the work, manages all the experts, and handles everything, including the distribution, right? So self-publishing means the author needs to make that investment, but in return, the author should get 100% of the net revenue from sales because the author made the investment. Well, this hybrid model is a hybrid in the sense that they charge the author to produce the book, and then they also take the author's money on the back end when a book is sold. So that doesn't work out too well for the author.
Yeah.
They're getting charged on both sides of the equation.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. From my personal experience, I had somebody who called themselves a hybrid publisher. They were upfront about the fee they would charge, and they were upfront about that being for editing, cover, formatting, all of that, which I thought, whoopee, that's great because that's,
Mhm.
something I don't want to do. However, and they also put it into Amazon and did the actual publish, which actually anybody can do, to be quite honest. It's not that difficult.
Exactly.
It's all the preparation of the book, which is actually more onerous. But then I found that they did the editing poorly. They did a cover I didn't like, and I had no choice to change. Um, and I didn't like their formatting, so I've had to redo everything again, even though I already paid that person, a good sum for all of that. So yeah, we have to be so careful as authors, don't we? And it's great that you're on to give us some clarification, I believe, on all these different aspects of publishing,
Well,
which a normal author doesn't have a clue about. They just want to write their book, right, and get it
well,
published. Yeah,
you used a very interesting word there, onerous, and a lot of authors do. It is onerous to try to step into a field where you've never worked before and try to manage, not only manage, but choose and qualify and then manage experts when you really don't have any knowledge about
yeah,
what they do.
yeah,
And so I think that's why a lot of authors are prompted to, what they feel more comfortable working with someone who's quote unquote a publisher.
yeah,
But what they don't know is that companies exist like mine that will provide those services to you conveniently and at a high quality, and then help you publish in your own name so that when the book is sold, you get all of the net revenue from
yeah,
sales. Now,
yeah,
these publishers, um, they charge the author to produce the book. A lot of them have gotten into the business just because they see opportunity, not because they knew anything about publishing. So I've seen, like you said, some terrible examples of terrible covers and poor formatting and so forth. And that could be because they're outsourcing it to people who are not qualified, and
yeah,
they don't know those people are not qualified because they don't have the experience. But then, of course, then they're also charging the author on the back end. Now, you said that they reveal their fees to you for the
yeah.
services, which is great. Did they also explain to you that they were going to take a cut of your revenue and pay you a royalty?
No, they didn't do that. They didn't take a cut of my royalties at all. So that was where they were a bit different, which kind of got me in. And so I do get 100% of my royalties, so that's not a problem. But the quality of the work they were going to do was so poor, I ended up having to take it off Amazon and redo it again completely, right?
Oh no.
Because it was
Well,
so
are you,
poor. But they didn't take the royalty, right? So that was the plus, which
did, but did they pay you a royalty?
It was published in my name.
Okay, on your
Yeah,
accounts.
on my account. Yes, yes,
Okay, so then
yeah,
that's somebody just like
yeah.
us who is
That's
just
right. That's right. That's right. That's
calling themselves a hybrid
That's
publisher.
right. That's right. It's so confusing for an author. I tell you, really confusing. Um, um, it sounds like too, you said that other people go into this because they see it as a financial opportunity for people like me who are naive and just wanting to get their book published, which I can see. So it's more of a financial incentive for some of those. But it sounds like, Michelle, you've had kind of a bit of a passion about this. Is that what you'd call it? Because it sounds like you've been in it for a while and you're still here and you're still going. Tell me about that. Tell me about the
I
thing
guess
that
I
got
guess
you in there. Yeah.
well, I got in there as basically it was an accident. It was the first Crown Publishers in New York was the first company that offered me a job when I got out of school. So I can't say I had a plan to go into publishing, but I wound up there and I liked it from the very beginning. And but back then, that was in 1972. There was only traditional publishing back then. And so the standards were upheld, and I learned how to do things the way a traditional publisher would do them. And that's the standard we still apply today. But over the years, those standards have come down as people who don't know as much get into the business, or they just cut corners in order to offer a low price to authors because, and frankly, a lot of authors do shop on price, and
Yes.
they forget that when you're buying services, you're not just buying a thing, a product that's exactly the same regardless of who offers it. You're buying the time of an expert, you're buying the level of expertise they may or may not have. And so that's where the trouble comes in.
Yes, definitely. So what drives you, Michelle? What drives you on an inner level, in terms of what you're doing in life? I mean, you've told us how you got in there, but you're still here all these years later. So what is it that drives you?
Well, I still love good books, and I still think that I was trained to believe that a book is a work of art, not only on the author's side, but also on the editors and on the designer's side. It's a team effort to put out a work of art, and that's the way I was trained, and I still believe that, and I still love doing that every day. I have a team now that helps me, of course,
Right.
uh, but. Uh, so that's the inspiration is to put out the very best book we can for the author, right? And
So
and that
at some level, then you decided that you were going to be a leader in your own field, in having been able to qualify who you're going to have doing the work, what standards you're going to operate, all of that. So it sounds like, that there's a fair bit of conscious leadership that's happened here, Michelle, to make things happen the way you want to happen for your own business, which obviously must flourish. Otherwise, you can't offer the services.
I can't say it was conscious leadership. I would like to believe that's very complimentary, but it was more like just dealing with life's ups and downs as they came along. My first business was a typesetting business.
Okay.
Um, before the age of computers, or it was the very beginning of the computer typesetting age when I went into the
Yeah.
typesetting business.
Yeah.
And that just Steve Jobs ended every typesetting business in the world when the Macintosh was
Yes.
invented.
Yes.
So I had to was forced to pivot. It wasn't like I took on any leadership ideas. It was just like, oh well, that didn't work. Now what? Um, and so then I went into freelancing, and that grew and grew and grew until I could no longer do everything myself. But I think the difference was because I had employees as the owner of the typesetting business. Now, a lot of freelance graphic designers will just turn work away. They'll just say, I can't, I'm too busy, I can't get to that, and leave it at that. But because I had employees, I just took the next step. I said, well, okay, I guess I need employees again. And so then that's how 1106 design came about.
And it's lovely the way you're saying you fell into it and it all happened and one thing led to another and you didn't have the big plan somehow.
I
And
didn't.
and yet somehow you got here, right? And so somehow there must have been a drive that you wanted to put your mark on the industry, or you wanted to create a company that was going to be obviously beneficial to you. Every company must be beneficial to the owner or the owners, but also is going to provide a service that, you're going to feel proud about.
Yes, and I'll admit to that. Yes, it is
Yeah,
it is the drive to create good books that has always been the inspiration. But it's kind of funny because as I was freelancing, email suddenly became a thing, and so what I found was that I couldn't keep up with the work and also with the emails, and that's still a problem, right?
yeah, yeah,
For everyone today, how do you balance those two
yeah,
demands on your time? And so I just decided that, well, okay, I've got to get some help. Even if I make less money by getting that help, at least the job will get done and I'm not turning it away.
yeah.
So that was the calculation.
So it seems like deep in your own psyche, you already had a lot of business acumen. Even though you actually created as you went along, but you were also a bit of a logical thinker in a practical sense, right? And
Well, I
those,
didn't I didn't see Steve Jobs coming, so I wasn't that smart.
well, who does? It's like
Yeah,
it's like the situation right now we're in the world. I mean, my gosh, it's
yeah,
crazy at the moment. But what do? We just have to navigate it, don't we? And we just have to
yes.
find our way through. And if this doesn't work anymore, we have to think, well, where to next? I mean, that's part of running a business, don't you think?
Oh, it is. The last thing I would have ever thought I would do would be on a podcast like this.
Yes.
But
Me too. Me too. Because I'm an
but that
introvert. I'm an introvert too. And yeah.
but that was another thing that I had to respond to because so many authors were getting in some cases just flatly ripped off by these
Yeah.
hybrid publishers. Thank
Yeah.
goodness that didn't happen to you, but there's some bad players in the
Yes, there are.
industry.
There are. That's
And
right.
I just said I have to get out there and try to let people know there's an alternative.
Yes. And maintain some standards in the industry, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Because at the moment it seems to be whatever you can get away with is what you do. For some players, which, it's almost like the morals or the ethics of business have dropped significantly, wouldn't you say?
absolutely. And
Yeah.
that, because before you use the word naive authors, well, if you're an author coming to a professional company of any kind for help to publish your book, you shouldn't have to know. They,
That's right.
they should they should have the integrity to explain to you what needs to be done and to
Yeah.
do it well for you. That onus is on the business, not on you.
Well,
But
it,
that's
u- it
that,
used to be, but that's shifted significantly, hasn't it? So that
yeah.
the person who wants the service now has almost been dumped with the need for discrimination, for research, for this, for that.
Mhm.
And often if you're brand new to it, you just don't have it. You have to get burnt a little bit before you start to wake up and look around, which is a real shame. Absolutely. I agree with
It,
you.
it 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 really is a shame, and it has actually made owning a business, I think, more difficult,
Yeah.
right? Because many people now come to us already cynical, and
Yes.
I have to essentially prove our innocence
Your
and prove
worth. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's no longer taken for granted. I have to work hard to just convince people that yes, we're doing things the right way.
Absolutely. And in your business, this the case, Michelle, and it's great to talk to somebody who's been there so long and seen all, many, many huge shifts and changes up to the present. from the 1970s up to now. And it's ongoing, of course, with AI coming in as well. So that adds another even bigger dimension, I think, for the present and the future. But that also applies to my industry and to many other industries, I think, too, in the sense of I'm a psychotherapist offering ways of working that are way more effective than the traditional psychotherapy that you're supposed to turn up week after week after week, month after month, year after year, and just expect that nothing much will change. And I have a different business where I say, no, 1 to 3 sessions, and most people are done, right? If you come with me. And people find that hard to get their head around. Well, how can Yildiz be saying this when my psychiatrist, my psychologist, my counselor is saying that, and they've been there forever. Who do we believe? So I'm always getting people coming to me saying, well, I couldn't imagine that this could work so easily and so quickly, and yet it did. So it's a matter of whatever business you're in, if you're doing something that is on the cutting edge or authentic or effective, it's really up to us as business people as well, isn't it, to really educate the public about what's current and what is working and what is not. Um, and then it's up to the public to decide whether they believe us or not and give us a try or not, too. Yeah.
That's right. And your own integrity comes into it too. It's like, regardless of what happens, there are lines you don't want to cross it in your
Yeah.
own sense of what's right and wrong.
That's right, absolutely. Well, that's how it works for me and you. But then we're of a similar age, I think. So perhaps we come from a slightly different base. I don't know. I don't know if that's true. But look, that's probably unfair because I'm sure there's a lot of really ethical, strong-minded young people too. But to have people like you and me and others holding up standards and holding up ethics is a great role model to be giving out to the world where, there seems to be almost a sewage level of acceptance of anything goes at the moment, which I certainly don't want to see become, you know, the only way of doing business. Because at
Yeah.
the end of the day, you've got to live with yourself, don't you, in what you do?
Yes. Yes. I don't know how some of these people sleep at night, honestly.
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, I like to go to sleep at night thinking I have done the best I can today, even if I didn't get to do
Yeah.
everything I meant to do. Because if it, like you, my list is probably keeps growing. The more I tick off, the more it grows anyway. So you can only do so much in a day, can't you? Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I was going to ask you one more question. What was the biggest learning you got from your darkest time in life, Michelle?
Ooh, there's been so
A big
there's been
question, yeah. When you've had a long life, there's quite a few of those probably. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can answer that. The biggest learning I got was that I'd better depend on myself.
Wow. Okay.
Uh, and that's not always fun, but it is always reliable.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Good. And what was it that caused that? Was it just that people didn't understand what you were doing, or didn't agree with what you were doing, or perhaps like me, my thoughts have always been way ahead of my groups that I've been in, and including my family too, I always had these ideas which were creative, I guess, but also, why not? Why can't we do it this way? That's always been my motto. And so that's kind of pushed me forward to give it a shot, and if it didn't work out, well, guess what? I'll pull back and go on the next. Why not? Until you find something that works, that's been my motto anyway. Yeah.
Well, for me, it was when my marriage ended.
Okay, yeah.
And
That's
so,
a
of
big
course, that,
thing. Yeah, big
yes, it
thing.
was a big thing, very painful, but it was
Yeah.
just like, okay, okay, I guess you couldn't count on that person anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
That's right.
so, yeah,
So you move on. Yeah, great.
yeah.
Fantastic. Well, So what I think we've kind of covered a lot of bases here today, Michelle. The name of your company, say it slowly, and I will put it in the notes underneath the podcast. So the name of your company again is,
Is 1106 Design, 1106design.com.
yeah,
And
right.
if anyone wants to go there, I give away my little book for free. It's called Publish Like the Pros. And anyone who wants to call me for a consultation, I will also give them two websites that they can visit to make sure that they are being paid the amount of money they should be paid when their book sells.
Okay, fabulous. Okay, well, thank you so much, Michelle, all the way from you are in USA. Which part of USA are you in at the moment?
Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay, good. Okay, excellent. So, yes, I certainly will be looking at that book and I'll also be looking at your services for the next time I need some help. So, thank you very much.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that you didn't get too damaged by the people you worked with.
Look, I think I'm a bit like you, Michelle. I'm not going to be beaten easily. Right? We're probably from a similar ilk where we just get up and do it again or do it better next time. Yeah.
Well, Winston Churchill said, never give up, right?
Yes, exactly. That's right. Well, while we're here, while I'm here, I do what I do, and sounds like you're the same. And fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, Michelle.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. If you've ever wanted to publish or you have published like me, no doubt you will have learnt a few tips from Michelle's talk. She's been really generous in telling me that you can get a download of her book, Publish Like a Pro, if you go to the URL tinyurl.com/publish like the pros. I'll put it in the notes. There is a book there waiting for you. If you'd like to know what I have to offer, go to yildizsethi.com.